Welcome to Fluorescene.
All right, today we welcome Dr. David Kading. Dr. Kading grew up in South Dakota, and he owns a private practice in Seattle, Washington. Dr. Kading graduated from Pacific University College of Optometry before being accepted to their prestigious cornea and contact lens residency. While a resident, he was chief of the contact lens department at the Portland VA Medical Center. Dr. Kading is active in various dry eye and contact lens research. He's a consultant and key opinion leader for several eye care manufacturers as well. He's written hundreds of articles and given hundreds of lectures nationally and internationally. Also, he's a fellow in the American Academy of Optometry and active on committees, as is responsible for forming the Anterior Segment Special Interest Group of the Academy. He's also the only optometrist in the state of Washington to have earned fellowship status in the Contact Lens Society of America. Impressive. Dr. Kading hosts a residency for optometrists at his office, Specialty Eye Care Group. He's co-owner of Optometric Insights, an organization that helps emerging optometrists transition into the practice of their dreams, as well as educating clinicians in novel and unique ways to diagnose and treat patients. He has a regular column in Contact Lens Spectrum, Contact Lens Today, and a digital video series called Clinical Insights, and that's on iTube OD. Welcome, Dr. Kading.
Thank you, Alan. It's an honor to get to be on the Fluorescene.
I have one question about that bio. Emerging optometrist, it brings to mind an image of an OD crawling out of an egg.
Yeah. Well, our audience there within Optometric Insights is the -4 before graduation to about 10, 15 years after graduation. So it's kind of difficult to, call our tribe something other than emerging and, entering into the field of optometry. So
I'm going to give you a hard time.
You're saying from an egg.
Well, I'm going to give you a hard time on any chance I get today.
Yeah, that's right. That's good.
This is a good point, a good place for us to jump off and tell us about your emergence, but try not to cluck. But, your emergence into optometry. What came first, the OD or the egg? All right, that's enough egg jokes.
Yeah. So, like everybody, I kind of had this interest in helping people. Later on, I kind of discovered my purpose of existence is to enrich people's lives so they could succeed to their greatest opportunity. And you hear that kind of as we kind of talk about the different areas that I'm involved in, and wanted to go into medicine, wanted to have, an idea of what that was. And really, it kind of came down to a balance of my family life and realized that optometry was the perfect thing. I thought I was going to be a pediatric optometrist or potentially just in primary care. I fell in love with contact lenses in school, decided to do a residency. In and amongst this time, I had another optometry student catch my eye, so to speak. And we ended up married in our 4th year, and she did her residency in binocular vision and pediatrics at the same time I did. And we emerged up to Seattle area, which is closer to her family, and bought our first practice in 2007. So that's how we kind of got into it.
That's a great story. Great story. You ended up in a great part of the country, and you've really not turned yourself from a practice owner into a thought leader and a legend in the industry. You write so much. I think over 100, almost 200 articles from what I could see. And I wanted to start by talking about one article I saw online that you wrote with our friend Mile Bruhick, and it was titled "Embrace the Oddballs." And what were you feeling when you came up with that name? And tell us what it means, and tell me about a time when you embraced an oddball, and it can't be during this interview.
Yeah, I think that we learn the most from things that are not normal. Yoda, to paraphrase the great philosopher Yoda, it's through failure that we learn the most. And when we fall down, and the odd things, I think, are by far the areas that we grow, and the oddballs in our practice, whether a binocular vision patient, whether it's a multifocal contact lens, or just this weird dry eye patient, it really kind of fits in. And so we look for those types of opportunities. As a residency host, we are looking to teach our residents stuff that you're not going to see in normal practice. And, about 50 to 70% of my practice, depending on the day, is a referral based. We get patients with all different sorts of things, and they tend to be the oddballs, the ones that, other docs aren't ready to take on. And some practices, can refer those out. And that's great to have those referral centers, but sometimes you can't. And embracing those are great opportunities to learn. And those are the ones that we talk about in continuing education courses as the oddballs, right? So we love to embrace the oddballs. And I think that was the premise of that article.
Yeah, the oddball cases, and then there's the oddball patients. And I assume the oddball patient with the most oddball case would be right up your alley.
Yes,
Right.
yes, it would be. Many of those people, to that end, sometimes people with different personalities, they tend to really have a hard time in eye care or in any medicine, because people don't know how to figure out how to communicate with them, right? And they've had a hard time embracing what's going on. So cracking that egg is just as important as cracking what's going on with them. There are studies that are out there, say, in the keratoconus world, and I think every specialty would have this, but in keratoconus, there is a separate personality type that's documented in the literature that people that keratoconus have, and they're maybe a little harder to deal with. Was it, to our analogy, the chicken or the egg that kind of came up with it? Was it that their personality started and then they ended up having keratoconus, or did their keratoconus help them develop this oddball personality, so to speak?
It's a syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's a syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think I read about that, and it's definitely true. In all these years, I can think about some of the most challenging patients, were more personality than pathology. But yeah, when they come together, they really appreciate you, and you have a patient for life.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
That is one way I'm sure you set yourself apart, and you've been a cheerleader for optometrists setting themselves apart. Talk a little bit about the importance of that in building your practice, and how people can use that strategy to grow faster and such.
Yeah. Well, in today's optometry practices, we all seem to have some sort of specialty of some sort. To give you some background, my wife and I, we bought our practice in December 2007. And by the end of 2009, so essentially 2 years later, we doubled the revenue of the practice. And moving from a 4-doctor day practice, who was a single doctor, to both of us, we were nearly close to being full-time for the two of us. And the reason we did, and all along, we didn't do any more eye exams than he had done. So what we did is, we had better practice management, but maybe more importantly is we grew the specialty within our practice in a very quick time. The binocular vision and pediatrics for her, dry eye and contact lenses for me. And I'm still a primary care practitioner, right? I see -2 myopes just like everybody else, who are standard, spherical soft contact lens fits, whatever it is, just like everybody else. But we've gone out to the community and said, hey, if there's challenging patients that have, you name it, any specialty, to kind of set yourself apart, hey, we deal with, this fancy pair of glasses that deals with people who have vertical prism and these sort of issues, or the glaucomas or the retinal disease, whatever it is. We like dealing with that here. Love to see that. And then ask your colleague, hey, what is it that you like to see? Maybe those are the patients that give you sweaty hands, and it gives us an opportunity to become a specialty in what we like, but also to become a good colleague and refer patients and to receive those referrals. So I am a champion of us as a community of optometrists finding a specialty within what we like to do, and then finding the things that we don't like to do, because you're not going to be as good at them. You're not going to take care of those patients as well. and there is somebody who could do it better than you. So see if there's somebody in your community that you could refer to.
It's really rewarding to have a specialty as well, because again, you stand out, and people who have sought that care and can't find it elsewhere, they become not only part of your practice, but part of your life. You build lifelong friendships with some of them as well. So, and that all comes together in that family, having a family practice type feel. It sounds like you really have built a family practice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, by and large, my wife kind of brings them in. A couple of years ago, we started working with the local hospital, and started doing these parent baby classes for newborns. At 3 or 6 months, my wife would go in and lecture about infancy eye exams.
Wow.
And we looked back over the years and we realized that those free infancy eye exams, which we would do over 100 of them a year, free infancy eye exams, they were one of the best ways to grow our practice. And, those parents would then be like, hey, can I come see you? And we're like, well, okay. The parents would then come see us, and then the grandparents would come see us. And, I would grow my contact lens patient base from that. And, it started with the pediatrics, and it just kind of has grown into the entire family. And it's been really, really rewarding. It's been a lot of fun.
That's really important for the young ODs watching this, because, well, you've been a real great role model for young ODs through Optometric Insights and elsewhere. But those kind of, I hate to use the old world pearls of knowledge, are important. After going through the process of student to real doctor, student doctor, real doctor, and subsequently having wind at my back with during that transition, I would have been further ahead in my career faster if I had advice like that. So let's give some advice to students on what they should think about and prepare for that transition. And once they're in practice, things like that help them build. It's just such valuable information that you don't get anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, Optometric Insights, we go out and we talk to students all the time. Pre-COVID, we were in the schools. In COVID, we've been doing virtual programs all the time. We're talking to, hundreds and thousands of students every single year about the importance of accelerating your success. That's what we're all about. So what do we need to do today to make whatever success is going to be later happen sooner? And how can we speed that up? One of the things, and we always say this to students, is the first and potentially most important thing for you to do is know where you're going to practice. And the reason we say that is because once you know where you're going to be, you can start developing some roots. Even as a first, second, third year optometry student, you can start laying a foundation, getting involved in local societies, start talking to doctors that are in the community who could potentially find you the job of your dreams. So we really talk about that as the first step that we have, and making those connections. I mean, Alan, you and I both know we wouldn't be where we are at with our practice or with our, outside of the practice optometry success had it not been for the relationships that we have. So it's so important to start developing those very, very early. And I look at the students who are crushing it as practitioners now. I look back at what they were doing in their third and fourth year, and they were starting to form relationships. So knowing where and then knowing what you want to do so that you can start forming that really accelerates the success, probably more than anything of what we suggest people do while they're in school. Then after school, there's after school programs. There's obviously plenty of them that we could kind of talk about, and those success stories that we've heard over the years as well.
Right. I think a great tool for that is LinkedIn, because during school, if you know where you want to be, and I 100% agree, when you know where you want to be and you're sure, the earlier you can decide that, the better off you're going to be. You're the more stable and secure, and the faster you'll grow. And LinkedIn is a great place to gradually just send requests to people, and you don't have to inundate them with stuff or even connect with them right away. Just build a little network on LinkedIn of doctors that are in that area. What happens is they see your name, It's like marketing. You know,
Hmm.
once you see something several times, you get familiar to some level with it, and then over time, tell them who you are. Don't ask for anything. They ask. It's not time to ask yet. Build those relationships
Hmm.
online with that professional tool, and then when you're back for a break, say, "Hey, doc, you know, would you mind if I come have lunch with you or visit your practice?" Because I can tell you that you know there are several people who have done that over the years, several students who've done that when I was practicing, and I know them. And then when I get a CV or a resume of somebody who wants to move to the area after, and I've never met them, I mean, I'm definitely leaning towards the people I already know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's happened time and time again that people come up to me and they're talking with me at conferences, and I see them at Washington events, and when it comes time for them to move up to the area, it's very easy for me to make a recommendation to another doctor who has a job open, or to talk with them about what's happening in our practice, versus those random CVs and those random letters of the person graduating a month from now, and they're looking to move to the area and they want to know if they can have a job, right?
Exactly.
So, to your point, absolutely, I feel the same way.
And you do this all through the organization Optometric Insights. Let's take a step back. Tell us about the genesis of the organization and what are you all working on now? I know you're always pushing the envelope.
Yeah. Well, Optometric Insights formed Mila Brujic and I. We were both lecturing all over the East Coast for him and the West Coast for me. And somebody at Alcon recognized that we were about the same age and doing the same thing. And at one of these conferences, they said, "Hey, I want to take the two of you out to dinner." And it was kind of like this blind date with somebody there chaperoning. The two of us were getting to know each other, and then this industry person was there to kind of make the connection who knew us both. It was pretty funny when we look back at that. And then over the years, I would be doing conferences, I would be doing lectures, and he and I just would talk on the phone, and we would chit chat with each other about things. And after a couple of years of doing that, we both mentioned that one of the most enjoyable things that we were doing is how much we were talking in the schools, and how much we were connecting with students and talking with them about mistakes that we had made. We were really encouraging people to consider private practice, but if they weren't, we wanted to know what they were intending to do, what their plan was. And it just kind of came about that we were really talking about some similar sort of things. And there was about three or four different companies that were trying to find a way to support programs like he and I were doing. And so we went to those industry groups and just said, "Hey, if we formed an organization, went out to all these schools, would you help support it?" So the program is supported by industry who has an interest in promoting practices and interest in promoting the profession, which both you and I know is a huge thing to put your money, because there's no immediate return on investment. So, those industry folks that have done that, it's just a huge win for them in the long term. And, we've really appreciated that. So the genesis started that we just continued to start going into optometry schools. We started an online community. Outside of ODs on Facebook, from a community standpoint, I don't know. I think we're probably number two or three outside of ODs on Facebook. And it's not that there's competition. It's just like the synergy that we have with ODs on Facebook. But we've got thousands of people that are following us on social media, both students, but also the people that are out for the last 5 to 10 years. And we're just trying to connect with them on how to accelerate their success. No student or no doctor ever pays us anything for what we do. We're industry supported, so that they know, that it's not that we're trying to charge the student or OD for anything. And just over the years, it's just grown. And I don't think either one of us imagined it would ever get as big or be nearly this fun. But we were really enjoying it and what we've accomplished over the years.
So what are you working on now?
Yeah, well, you alluded to in your intro about a video series that we did, which was originally hosted on iTube OD. And iTube OD, by and large, has gone away. iTube still exists, and it's a great place for video that is happening in eye care. But we owned the rights to our clinical insights. And so we have gone and republished all of them in our YouTube and our Facebook page. 80 episodes in total. We just look back how we made all of those 80 episodes and the amount of time. And this started probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that we were really doing this. And that was really early days of video. But it really caught on, and they were intended to be 2 to 5 minute long clinical insights, little pearls of how to treat dry eye, how to treat, whatever it was. And that video series has now come to a conclusion, at least as far as what we've been publishing. And so now we're doing something somewhat similar in a podcast, but also in a video scenario where we're publishing about 8 to 15 minute discussions with our optometric colleagues who Mila and I respect. We're having an industry corner around things. We're having an area that is, clinically focused, and then a practice management focus. And the podcast sort of thing, it's called the OI Show, because it's not just podcast. It's going to also be on YouTube and Facebook video, is all intended to just give quick tidbits of things to do in practice or clinically. And it's launching March 1st, 2021. So if you're watching this before that, you'll know to look out for it. And if it's after that, you can go out and seek it through our social media or through the Apple or Android podcast.
That's exciting. That sounds like a lot of work, but it's going to add a lot of value to.
I don't know if it's as much work as you've put in on the Fluorescene. I mean, this is a pretty high production thing, my man.
It's about the content. You can make it as beautiful and pretty as you want, but unless you deliver the good stuff, right? We both have similar goals because we both want to add value to the industry, and I just love the fact what you guys do for the young OD. Now, you told us about practicing with your wife. Tell us about the rest of your family.
Yeah, so I have 3 daughters. They are 4, 7, and 9 years old. They are just, the joy of my life. I think I was intended to be a father to girls. I thought, I'm a hunter, and I like to shoot guns, and I like to do all these things that are perceptively, historically very manly things. And, they don't have to be. My girls have been really enjoying getting involved in those sort of things. It's kind of taken down these gender stereotypes with my girls being excited and interested. We go camping. We enjoyed doing that a lot last year when we were, isolating away from people. Camping really became something that we did as a family. It was a lot of fun. And there's great places to do that in Washington State. Like you said, I'm originally from South Dakota, so we do get out to South Dakota and enjoy the beauty of the outdoors there as well. And my girls are doing little things like gymnastics, and they go to a school that is very liberal arts as opposed to a STEM school. So they come home and they've memorized these long Emily Dickinson's poems and so forth, things that I would never sit down and take the time to even read because they're so long. And my daughters have them memorized. It's just super impressive. Obviously, they're much more like their mother than like their father.
We forget how great your mind is when you're young.
Yeah.
I mean, I have 2 boys, and just the things they learn and they talk about and they tell me, and memorization and talents and skills. Where did all mine go? Was I ever like that? I don't even remember. But it's amazing.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I know that's special. I wish I had a daughter, but it didn't happen for me. So I'll wait for the I'm counting on having a granddaughter, and they know that. That's great. And the hiking and the camping, it's great. I know you also bike, and you're a triathlete. What else? What else don't you do?
Well, I've taken just a little sabbatical, maybe permanent sabbatical from the triathlete world. I had gone through a couple of injuries that required surgery. And so my doctor asked me a couple of years ago, let's ask your 80-year-old self if that's the thing you should be doing right now. So, we're reevaluating the physical aspects of what we're going to be involved in, and maybe considering a couple others after I am fully recovered from. I just had shoulder surgery, so when we kind of get recovered from everything, but my daughters are super excited to get into rock climbing. They've all expressed interest in doing that. So that's something I did when I was younger. So potentially that, and then I do a lot of shooting, and go to the range, and it's really fun to do precision shooting with guns. I think that's probably something that is I'm most involved in is target shooting, and that's takes an incredible amount of patience, calmness, centering yourself. And some of my friends are pretty involved in archery and target shooting with archery, and they're excited to get back indoors to do that sometime soon. So those are things that I've kind of been involved in, and I also, and this has been a fun COVID thing, am pretty involved in woodworking and building furniture and doing that sort of thing. So those are kind of my hobbies that I think a lot of people outside of eye care don't know about.
Well, I think we have the same doctor, because I had that same talk about my knees from running, and I don't even have a knee problem. He's like, I think you better move to the elliptical. I'm like, why, doc? Because when you're 80, we're at that point. I mean, you're younger than me, but, it was a smart move. And I'm a sharpshooter, so I appreciate that calmness and that you have to put into that kind of precision. It's something that's a big part of my life also. Did not know that. And woodworking. I know my way around my home shop too. Very cool.
There you go.
We'll have to talk more about that on other people's time. But listen, for now, we're going to wrap it up. And I want to tell you that I'm very appreciative of you being here today. And I'm appreciative of what you bring to the industry. And keep doing it, because it's fantastic. And I look forward to a time where we can hang in person. And I do want to ask you one thing. Can we have you back on the show where we'll talk clinical, and we'll really dig down on some of the interesting cases and things you talk about in your lectures?
Yeah, buddy, I'd love that. I'd be excited to come back anytime.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I will put you on the agenda for a repeat sometime in the next 6 months or so. In the meantime, let's keep in touch, and be safe and enjoy that beautiful family of yours, okay?
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.